Hello, welcome to Language Retreat. Today we would begin the second poem in the HSC syllabus, poem 2.2, which is called as Indian Weavers. And the poetess here is Sarojini Naidu, as you can see on screen. The second paragraph of the introduction, which talks about the poem, it says, Indian Weavers is a short poem where the poet talks about three types of garment. Garment meaning clothes that the weavers weave at three particular times of the day. Okay, that is evening, afternoon, morning, times of the day. Each stanza of the poem represents the three important events of human life, that is birth or childhood, adulthood, and death. So the poem, as you will see later, is divided into three stanzas. Okay, each stanza talking about a particular phase in human life. Okay, the first stanza talks about childhood or birth of a newborn child. Second stanza, it talks about adulthood. Okay, and the third stanza talks about death. So these are the metaphors in the poem. Metaphors meaning comparisons. Okay, the poetess is talking about times of the day and comparing it to human life. For example, in the first stanza, she talks about the early morning, break of the day. Okay, and it is compared to the birth of a newborn child. Okay, that is how it proceeds in each stanza. We'll look at it when we reach that particular stanza. Okay, so remember this metaphor, this comparison. Now, the next thing that you should remember, which is applicable for all the three stanzas, is the colors that are included in the stanza. Okay, the colors mentioned in the stanzas are very significant. Significant as they are important, as they indicate the moods related to the events. So the colors are specific to the stage of life or the mood of the person in that stage of life. Okay, so now let's look at the poem here. Indian weavers. Weavers weaving at break of day. Why do you weave a garment so gay? Blue as the wing of a halcyon wild, we weave the robes of a newborn child. So here the pattern is such that the first two lines of the poem are a question asked by the poet. And the next two lines is the reply, okay, or the answer, and that is given by the weavers. So the poet is asking a question to the weavers in the first two lines, and the next two lines, the weavers are replying to that. So weavers weaving at break of day. Break of day is early morning. Early morning meaning when it is about to, when the day is about to begin. Why do you weave a garment so gay? Why are you weaving a cloth which looks so joyful? Okay, a cloth which looks so full of happiness. Okay, so why is it that you're weaving a cloth which looks so bright, so joyful, so happy? What is the reply by the weavers? Blue as the wing of a halcyon wild. Halcyon is a kind of a kingfisher bird, okay, which is blue in color. So he's indicating a particular shade of blue, okay. He's not generalizing it as blue. He's saying that particular shade of blue, which is like the halcyon. So blue as the wing of a halcyon wild, we weave the robes of a newborn child. So we weave the robes, that is again clothes of a newborn child. That is a very small child, a tiny child. Okay. So we weave the robes of a newborn child. So the weavers are saying we have chosen the color blue, okay, because we are weaving the clothes for a newborn child. Now, as I pointed out towards the beginning, what should you focus on? The time of the day. That is, what is the time here? Break of the day. That is dawn or early morning, right? And what is it that it is representing? It is the newborn child. That is the beginning of life. Beginning of day and beginning of life, right? That is the metaphor here. That is the comparison here, right? And now, why is it that they are choosing blue as the color? Okay, so blue here symbolizes freshness. Okay, since blue always represents freshness, or it represents hope and beauty. Okay, So the color blue has been chosen by the weavers for the clothes of a small child, a newborn child. Okay. Now this pattern of the stanzas remains the same throughout the poem. First two lines are a question by the poet, and the next two lines are the reply given by the weavers, right? So remember this pattern, it is throughout the poem. Let us look at the second stanza. We'll look at poetic devices, figures of speech later, okay? Once we complete the explanation for the entire poem, we come back to that, okay? Now the second stanza says, weavers weaving at fall of night. Why do you weave a garment so bright? So what is the question in the second stanza? Weavers weaving at fall of night. So the time here that the poet is talking about is fall of night. Fall of night meaning evening time. Okay, when the day is about to end. So fall of night is the time that the poet is talking about here. Okay, fall of night is the end, nearly the end of the day. We can say it is the evening time. We can call it as the dusk time, right? And this represents the adulthood. So weavers are weaving it at fall of night, which is evening time. We call it as the dusk, because when it is about to be dark, right? So here this time period represents adulthood. Okay. Weavers weaving at fall of night. Why do you weave a garment so bright? So why are you weaving a garment which looks so bright, which looks so full of energy, right? So the weavers are replying that like the plumes of a peacock, purple and green. So plumes meaning the soft feathers. Okay. So like the feathers of a peacock. What is the color combination that they're talking about? Purple and green. We weave the marriage veils of a queen. So we are weaving the marriage veils, the clothes to be worn on the day of the marriage by a lady. Okay, so a girl who is about to get married, so she chooses the colors purple and green. Okay, purple and green here symbolize a combination of happiness and sorrow. Okay, so a girl who's about to get married, she's got some mixed feelings in mind. Okay, she's happy because she's moving on in life, starting her own household with her partner. Okay, but she's also sad that she's leaving her parents' house, right? So it is a mixed feeling on the day of a marriage, happiness and sorrow. It also represents the ups and downs of life. Okay, the two colors, purple and green, ups and downs of life. So there will always be times when things are very well going, she is so happy, and there will also be times of sorrow, right? So this is a representation of the two colors chosen, purple and green. Okay, moving on to the third one. Again, the same pattern of stanza. Weavers weaving, solemn and still. Okay, the word solemn here is they are silent because there is something sorrowful that has happened. The white color that the weavers have chosen here, it symbolizes emotionlessness. So there is no emotion, everybody is sad. Okay, emotionlessness. Or it also represents lifelessness. Okay, the representation of the color white. So they are solemn and still because they are sad that there has been a death, and they are weaving a dead man's shroud. And they've chosen a color white, which is a color of emotionlessness and lifelessness. So that is how this poem goes. Okay. Once we understand the poem, what do? Is we go through the entire poem again, looking at the figures of speech or the poetic devices and the rhyme scheme of the poem. So day is to be considered A. Gay is rhyming with day. So A again. Wild, B, not rhyming with any of the earlier ones. And child again, B. So the rhyme scheme is A, A, B, B throughout the poem. For every stanza, this is your rhyme scheme. Okay, let's look at figures of speech or poetic devices now. As I said, for every stanza, there is a metaphor, right? For the first stanza, what is the metaphor? Comparison हुआ है दो चीजों का, break of day that is the beginning of the day, and it is compared with birth. So beginning of life. That is the first metaphor in the first stanza. Okay. Second line, why do you weave a garment so gay? So garment and gay beginning with the same sound. So the figure of speech here is alliteration. So blue as the wing of a halcyon wild. As is used in comparison, the blue color is compared to the blue color of the halcyon, right? So when you're using like or as in comparison, you call it as figure of speech. Simile. We weave the robes of a newborn child. Again, we and weave. Same sound, so alliteration. Okay, so moving on to the second stanza, let's look at the poetic devices in the second stanza of the poem. Weavers weaving at fall of night. So metaphor here, fall of night is compared to adulthood, right? So that is a metaphor. Why do you weave a garment so bright? Again, why and weave. So it is alliteration. The same sound is repeated. Like the plumes of a peacock, purple and green. So peacock and purple, again, you have alliteration here. But the word like is also used in comparison here. So you also have simile for the same line. We weave the marriage veils of a queen. We and weave again, as in the first stanza, this is alliteration too. Okay, moving on to the third stanza. What do you weave in the moonlight till? What is the metaphor here? The moonlight is compared to the end of the day and end of life, that is death. White as a feather and white as a cloud. So white as, comparison using as. So it is simile again in the third line. We weave a dead man's funeral shroud. So we and weave is alliteration again, right? So the figures of speech or poetic devices remain the same, similar ones in each stanza. All right. So that is it about the poem. In case of any doubts, do place them in the comment section and would be happy to help here. So that is it for today. Stay tuned.